since we're talking about the Democrats ruining everything, let's talk about Beijing Biden selling everyone out. 2 stacks is definitely on the menu.
As described by the Chinese.
As described by the Chinese, as Di Dongsheng, professor of politics in Beijing University. But yeah, so the first one was Biden's bizarre dismissal of the Uyghur Genocide, which I think at this point we don't have to contest. I think most serious mainstream thinkers agree that China is conducting what amounts to a genocide in the province that the Uyghur live in, because of the fact that they're not Han Chinese. And this is something that has been, this kind of genetic imperialism has been part of Chinese policy for the last 1,000 years or so. And so no surprises here. It's business as usual, it seems, in China.
There are at least, 3 in the last 100? So
yes.
During Joe Biden's life in politics,
yes,
he's experienced multiple genocides in China,
yes,
shall we say.
And he still takes money from them. But anyway, Biden was having a town hall meeting and said, well, if you know anything about Chinese history, it's always been the time when China has been victimized by the outer world is when they haven't been unified at home. So the vastly overstated central principle of Xi Jinping is that there must be a united, tightly controlled China, and he uses this rationale for the things he does based on that. And he said that he was not going to speak out against the Communist Party's belligerent actions in Hong Kong or against the Uyghur or against Taiwan. Because he pointed out to him that no American president can be sustained as a president if he doesn't reflect the values of the United States. And so the idea that I'm not going to speak out against what he's doing in Hong Kong, what he's doing in the Uyghurs and Western Mountains, China and Taiwan, trying to end the one China policy by making it forceful, Xi gets it. Culturally, there are different norms that each country and their leaders are expected to follow. You think this is a senior moment, don't you?
If you actually watch the video, he does start it, so he's already talking about condemning Chinese actions, and then he says we must stand up for human rights. Yeah. He also ends the segment saying, well, that's why we're standing up for the human rights in the UN. And the middle part, that is him laying out Beijing's position, if you are to be charitable. It is him saying, look, this is what China thinks. They think that a nation-state must be strong and unified. Therefore, that's why they're engaging in this. Whereas an American president has to represent the people of America, and that's the difference between us.
Yeah.
However, as the president of America, obviously the optics there and the fact that you're phrasing it like that is unacceptable. If a random YouTuber like you had said this is what Beijing's position is on things and explaining it, sure, everyone could understand.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even mind him laying out Beijing's position. I'd expect him to be able to adequately lay that out, the position. But to then say, well, this is just different cultural norms. It's like, well,
he's explaining that they have a different cultural norm, that they are acceptive in the state role of the state being overbearing in the form of genocide in this case.
Yeah.
And that's something that is accepted in Chinese politics. Again, not good for him to say it.
No, but the thing is, it's fine for him to lay that out, but then in the West, Mr. Biden, I don't know whether you've been aware of this, but we actually condemn genocide here. We actually think that all genocides are bad. We don't actually just go, well, Chinese going to Chinese, what are you going to do? We don't do that.
It is very weird that in response, because the question from the CNN anchor was, what do you think, or what do you make of the genocide there, referencing the Uyghur Muslims. Why would you respond as a mainstream politician?
Well, let me explain China's position here.
Yeah, why would you not just go, that's horrible, I condemn it? Why would the conversation not end there?
But why aren't you okay, well, as the leader of the world hegemon, we're going to take action against this. Because exterminating a race of people's wrong, by the way, Joe?
Because it's not like you're not giving a lecture on Chinese history or policy. You are a politician who's the president of the United States. It is embarrassing that he looks like this and framed it like this.
It appears to be tacit approval of what China is doing by the non-intervention in his own rhetoric. If he's going to be like, well, that's what China does, the Xi Jinping, you have to understand it from his position. He's got to do what the Chinese people want, and if they have a problem with these people, essentially, then I'm not going to make a moral stand on it. No, you're kind of demanded to take a moral position on this, Joe.
To be fair to him, though, he does start that bit. So the most shared clip is a minute long. And if you go back a couple of seconds, he does say at the start, we should stand up for human rights. And the section a little bit after, he says, and that's why we're taking action in the UN to stand up for human rights, after he lays out China's position. So he does say those two bits. But it is very weird that you wouldn't just outright say, no, this is a genocide, we condemn it, and we're going to take action. And that should be the end of your speech.
And I think the weirdness comes from the fact that he's Beijing's friend in Washington, isn't it? I mean, I think that we can reasonably infer that to be the case at this point. I mean, they did say it.
Yes.
They did just come out and tell. We covered this in a podcast, probably 30 or 40 podcasts ago now. It was a while ago. We should probably get the clip up again at some point to show people. But a professor at Beijing University who was personally chosen by Xi Jinping to go over and find a bookstore that he could launch his book in, just came out and said, we with the Trump administration in, we had no friends in Washington. They wouldn't take our money and they wouldn't do what we want. And now that Biden's in, well, they take our money and they'll do what we want. We have friends back in Washington. And this kind of implies that this is a continuation of that effect. If Biden's going to be like, it's just Chinese cultural norms, calm down, we'll go to the UN about it. Like, okay, who's paying you? Well, we know.
Weird phrasing as well, yeah.
Yeah, weird phrasing. But, and the thing is, so this isn't like it's not some kind of morally neutral or even, vaguely permissible thing, right? Because Mike Pompeo, the outgoing Secretary of State...
Like we're not talking about, treating women differently in the workplace.
Yeah.
We're talking about genocide.
We're not talking about veils or something, right? Exactly. We're not talking about the number of countries that have outlawed homosexuality or something like that. No, we're talking about an active attempt to exterminate an ethnic group, right? So Mike Pompeo had come out before he was retired from the position, identifying Chinese government's treatment of the Uyghur Muslims as a genocide, and says that there's been a strong and long bipartisan commitment to Taiwan, and that's obviously going to be going off the table now. But the point is, the reason they call it a genocide is because it seems to be absolutely awful in every way that a genocide is, right? Because this is reported by CNN. And this is just like, okay, Biden, do you not have anything to say about this? China faces new claims of sadistic gang rape and torture of women inside its vast network of detention camps, according to a former detainee and camp teacher who spoke to CNN. It's like, okay, Joe, it's not just cultural norms. And if it is just cultural norms, those cultural norms are bad, and we have a moral responsibility to surely, at the very least, mention it in public. Right? I'm not saying invade China. I'm not saying you've got to stop trading with China. I'm just saying you have to accept that the Chinese Communist Party is doing bad things, really bad things, and that's all. That's all I want. Just that acceptance, Joe.
Did you watch this full clip, by the way?
No, I didn't. It was
okay. So there's like a woman who's like in her 40s saying that this happened to her. She heard other women happen to them, and then they cut to like the Chinese government, and they say the Chinese government's response, and it's like a 4chan post talking about the Holocaust, where they're just making this up for fame and money. It's like, what? Like, why would you make this up?
What fame and money is involved?
Yes, I want to be famous as a victim of gang rape. Like,
and how would you get paid from that? Like what?
Doing interviews, I guess.
I guess, but come on, that's ridiculous.
It's like 4chan when they say that victims of the Holocaust are just doing it for money. It's
that is just awful. But yeah, Joe Biden, just cultural norms. Sorry, ladies, cultural norms. There's nothing Biden can do. Thank goodness that's that problem done with. Obviously, the next one is the Wuhan Institute that studies are showing that could well have been the source of the coronavirus is eligible to receive taxpayer funding through to 2024. That's good news, isn't it? Joe Biden has committed $200 million, sorry, $200, that'd be fine. I mean, if that was it, I wouldn't be complaining quite so much, I guess. But $200 million of taxpayer money, according to a spokesman who spoke to the Daily Caller. So that's good. The World Health Organization, definitely not in China's pocket. Definitely not run by communists.
Did our stream just go down? A lot of F's in chat, and the stream is buffering on my screen.
Right, okay. Stream is buffering, apparently.
Oh, no, we're back. Okay, I don't know. Sorry,
Mr. Xi Jinping. we actually agree with giving the Wuhan Viral Institute $200 million of American money because you clearly need that money and you clearly deserve it as well for all of the service you've done for the world, frankly. I don't know what I was thinking about. And I suppose it's in the light of that it makes sense that Biden gives China access to the US energy grid. We talked about this a while ago by repealing the executive order Trump had put in to specifically prevent Chinese companies from, and be very clear, Chinese companies are not separate from the Chinese government.
The Chinese government doesn't believe in property rights.
No.
Every company
is communist.
Yeah, but it means every company that is Chinese is owned by the kind of communist Chinese party.
Yes. And Jem Psaki was asked about this in one of her famous now press conferences, and it was hilarious because you could see that instantly she wanted to tell everyone she wanted to circle back and made the hand motion, but caught herself because she's been mocked a lot for this. And so she stumbles on for about a minute and a half, really looking uncomfortable because the reporter just says, well, how do you justify giving the Chinese Communist Party access to our energy grid. And she's like, blah, 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 and then ends it with, I'll circle back to you on that. It's like,
I was kind of expecting her to go, well, the Chinese have appointed a woman in charge of it. So.
well, we'll get to that, in fact. We'll get to that. And, of course, Joe Biden has pledged $4 billion for the global vaccine efforts. Again, our American friends, that's your money. That's your money that he's just like, yeah, have billions for problems overseas. Not our problem, your problem, their problem.
I mean, they're literally the arsonist in this case who burnt down the house and you're paying for the house to be rebuilt. Like, surely they should be paying.
Yeah, I wonder how much of this money is going to go to China.
So
Really makes you think, doesn't it? And in the meantime, when it comes to more domestic things, the Democrats are just on insane civil war mode. It's wild. So this was an interview with Del Stacey Plaskett, an impeachment manager in the second trial of Trump. And again, I won't play the whole thing, so it's a 7-minute clip or anything. But basically, the takeaway that CNN have given us is perfectly adequate to summarize what their opinions are. We are on the front lines to save our republic. We have shown who Donald Trump is, the enemy that was among us. Insane. This elected president is the enemy among us. And of course that means his supporters. And so they've introduced the most petty legislation I think I've ever seen in my life. And they may as well just say that we don't like Donald Trump and don't want him to be president again legislation. Right? It's called the No Glory for Hate Act. But, oh, shut up. Just shut up. A, you're a side that doesn't believe in glory because you're entirely materialistic. And you're full of hate, so don't even start. But the bill...
Like, this act in and of itself is an act of hate.
Yes. Yes, it's an irrational act of hate, very clearly. But the point of this is to ban twice-impeached presidents from burial at the Arlington National Cemetery and federal funds from going to buildings displaying their names or acknowledging their achievements.
That's fine, though, because he's never been impeached. Are they actually wording it like you have to be impeached twice?
Yep.
Because in which case this is a complete, like, nothing. They can't even implement
Well,
that.
yeah, I mean, I assume the most acquitted president in history would still qualify.
He's actually the goodest boy. So.
He is. But this Damnatio Memoriae we'll come back to in a minute. But that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get Donald Trump effectively erased from US history. But anyway, let's go back to Biden and what he's doing, or in fact, what she's doing. Because it's not Biden doing things, because he's a senile old 78-year-old man who probably needs to go and have a nap. Kamala Harris is in fact taking the stage, and she's taking foreign calls on behalf of Biden. Because why wouldn't she? When you have a literally the oldest president ever, he probably does need a bit of time off. You're going to have to step up as VP, obviously. She had a call to a foreign leader, Emmanuel Macron, which is interesting. I wonder what they talked about. She also spoke to Trudeau and Tedros, Ghebreyesus, from the World Health Organization, and they all agreed that they needed to strengthen bilateral ties between the United States and France, and of course Canada, and the conversation with Trudeau, to revitalize the transatlantic alliance. Harris and Macron agreed on the need for close bilateral, multilateral cooperation to address COVID, climate change, and support democracy at home and around the world. So just empty words. I mean, what does any of that mean, really?
We will continue to be allies.
Yeah.
We already were.
We will continue to enact the globalist agenda that we have been enacting. I wonder if they spoke about Islam at all in that conversation. Probably not. Probably didn't come up. Probably just had other things to talk about. And she, of course, spoke to Trudeau as well and said exactly the same thing.
You know, I kind of love the idea of Macron screaming down the phone about Islamo-leftism. She's on the other end like, what have I done?
Yeah, what the hell is he talking about? But with Trudeau, she spoke about the US's desire to work closely with Canada on a wide range of issues. These are the exact quotes, by the way, including combating the COVID-19 pandemic, addressing climate change, and expanding our economic partnership in ways that advance the recovery and create jobs. Well, maybe if you hadn't cancelled that damn pipeline that cost, what is it, tens of thousands of jobs, hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe that would have been a much easier thing. And probably wouldn't have damaged Canadian-US relations in the way it did. But hey, you guys take your decisions. The rest of us, I guess, just have to live with them, right? So, and this just to be clear, right? We're not insinuating in any way, shape, or form that Trudeau is anything other than a Chinese puppet himself. This was reported by the Post Millennial a little while ago, and I mean, it's just exactly as bad as you would expect. He personally invited the Chinese People's Liberation Army to train in Canada. This is the same army that conducted Tiananmen Square. This is Mao's army. And the cold weather training was cancelled by the Canadian Armed Forces, which sparked an angry response from Trudeau, who, quote, demanded that Canada's military not cancel any more engagements with the PLA without explicit permission first, and that the news of the cancellation had to be told to the PLA gently. Or what? You're not going to get your third stack? What's the problem here?
Presumably. Well, I mean, why else would he approve this?
Yeah,
if he's
exactly.
not getting paid.
Exactly.
So,
Why would he approve this? Same with Biden. Why would he make excuses for genocide? Why would he approve the Chinese army training in Canada? Like, I just find that mad. And then when he's
preparation
upset
for the
about it,
invasion of Alaska, presumably.
I guess, the Chinese are going to need a forward base in their invasion of North America, I suppose. And Trudeau's like, hey, that's very progressive. Use Canada. Well, it's mad. Everyone is getting sold out to China by their own world leaders. It's absolutely disgusting. I mean, like, in the UK, it took the Trump administration to essentially strong-arm Boris into making it so that the Chinese couldn't buy up our 5G infrastructure. It's like, why does that even have to come? Because the stacks are coming in. That's what it is. And the thing is, right, there's a part of me that's like, you know what, maybe rule from China would actually be better. Because things aren't going great here. Things are going really badly. I mean, look at the White House YouTube channel. They've been putting up clips and videos of Kamala Harris and Jen Psaki talking about the things that they're going to do. And honestly, I'm at the point where it's like, Chinese leadership's probably better than this. All right, let's watch this clip.
In 1 year, the pandemic has put decades of the progress we've collectively made for women workers at risk. There are three main reasons for this, as we all know. First, job loss. About 2.5 million women have dropped out or have been forced out of the workforce during the pandemic. Second, small businesses are closing. Last February, around 5 million women were business owners, and 2 months later, by April, 1 in 4 had closed their doors.
It only affects the women.
I'm in a total agreement with Bernie Sanders. The American people are tired of women.
When did he say that?
You not seen that quote?
No.
Oh, I'll send it to you afterwards.
I haven't seen that.
It's a really famous meme where he just cut his speech. He's like, the American people are tired of women.
I mean, anyway. I mean, yes, basically. But what I love about this is that 4,000 downvotes, 500 upvotes, comments off. Don't want to hear from you. We're here for women. But of course, that's not the only thing. Jem Psaki put up a 2-minute clip of her answering questions from Twitter. That's where the American public are. They're all on Twitter. These are kitchen table
Except the ones you banned.
Yeah, except the ones they're banned, of course. Yeah, so left wings. But this again, 1.6 thousand votes up, 7,300 down. But let's watch what Jen has to say about small businesses.
What is President Biden doing for my small business? First and foremost, he nominated a woman to lead the Small Business Administration who formerly worked there. Second thing is he signed an executive order to make it easier for minority-owned small businesses to get access to the funding that they need. And third is that in the American Rescue Plan, there's currently about $60 billion to help a range of small businesses get access to additional funds.
Look how the small businesses are actually at the end of that list.
Yeah.
Firstly, I appointed a woman. Vagina's in.
Secondly, brown people.
And then thirdly, maybe helping small businesses. I don't know.
But a range of it. Okay, that range, I don't think it's going to include things that might benefit white people. I mean, they seem to have specifically gone around that demographic and helped everyone except them. It seems to be they're actively singling out white men and saying, not for you, which... I mean, what else are you supposed to take from that?
To be fair, it wasn't their manifesto. So
I mean, it was, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying we didn't see this coming. I'm just saying this is exactly what we get. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think Chinese rule would be worse.
Thanks, Biden voters.
Yeah. Well done. Contrapoints. Shu. Vorsh. You. I hope you're happy with what you wrought, because you did this. But anyway, so awful, generally. Racial, gendered, essentially segregationist policies being enacted by Jim Crow Joe, which I think is a fair way to describe it at this point. I like Beijing Biden as well. Just it's unreal how all the memes just are true. And in response to all of this, of course, the Capitol fence is staying because they are well aware that, my God, you might actually be really angry that we're imposing a racial and gendered regime on you that clearly you voted for overwhelmingly. Most popular president ever. Just turn off those comments. Don't look at the downvotes. Don't worry about that. Most popular president ever, and he needs a razor wire fence to prove how popular he is. Right? The Capitol Police have decided, we're going to need to keep this, and so they're fine with it. And obviously all the Democrats are completely fine with having walls now, of course. And 40 Republicans signed a letter going, this is bad, maybe we shouldn't do it. And
And only 40?
Only 40. Only 40 Republicans.
That's depressing.
That's very depressing. It's very much like the Conservatives over here. Very small number are actually like, you know what, it's probably bad if we have an armed and occupied capital in the face of the American people who we're currently selling out to China.
Because if you accept this, it'll never disappear. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like the security arrangements that were in London. They were temporary and then they're just there forever.
As Thomas Sowell said, nothing's more permanent than a temporary government solution. It was Sowell or Friedman. It was one of the two.
Sowell.
I thought it was Sowell. But and so in addition to this, of course, there's no point having a razor wire fence if there's not going to be anyone to defend it. So they're going to keep 5,000 troops in Washington, D.C. This was rumored, but now we've got confirmation of it.
So again, a temporary thing that is now permanent for at least a year, which will be permanent forever.
And again, it just screams consent of the governed. It just screams most popular administration in history. It just screams this is what the American people voted for. They voted for a man who's clearly overwhelmingly popular and they just want to be sold out to China. Again, it's probably because of the reign of the SJWs at this point. I can only imagine that the average American is like, I'd rather be ruled from Beijing. Better than being ruled by this. 5,000 National Guards are going to stay there. Presumably, our roving reporter from within the Capitol Guard, White Hot Peppers, will be one of them, hopefully. Not hopefully, I guess, but it'd be nice to have information coming from inside the ground that we can trust. But apparently this is because of, I don't even dare say, the conspiracy theory that may not be named.
Really? We're at that point?
We're at that point, yeah. Well,
because yesterday's podcast had a notice about the Voldemort conspiracy theory.
Yeah, and we didn't even talk about it. So it was like, okay, whatever you say, YouTube, you appear to have been losing your marbles, and so we...
I'm going to start putting it on kids' videos for no reason as well.
Yeah. By the way, I can't even... I'm Damnatio Memoriaing it in the same way that Pelosi is. So it was because of the unmentionable conspiracy theory that these people appear to have lost their mind. They say some of these people... No, I'm not even joking. Like, imagine... It's ridiculous, right?
This is a debunked conspiracy theory, but also we need 5,000 troops because, it might be real.
Yeah, right. Some of these people have figured out that apparently 75 years ago, the president used to be inaugurated on March the 4th. Okay, now why is that relevant? God knows, at any rate. Well, why are you bringing it up? God damn it, now they're thinking that we should gather together and storm the Capitol on the 4th of March that is circulating online. Where is that circulating? I'm on all of these other platforms. I haven't seen people talking about this. But it's like, okay, so a few lunatics online have said that, March the 4th, we're going to storm the Capitol. That's not going to happen, is it? That's not going to happen. No one thinks that's going to happen.
Do you not remember the Facebook page to storm Area 51?
Yeah.
I mean, how many people were saying they were going to do that?
Millions.
And how many went?
None.
So...
Turns out that things said online don't often translate into real life. But so this is why 4,900 troops are going to be staying in the capital with their razor wire fences, presumably indefinitely, because I can't imagine there's ever going to be a time when people on the internet don't look at Jeffrey Epstein's criminal record and Bill Clinton's apparent friendship and flight logs with him and go, there's something fishy going on here. That's probably going to be on the internet forever. And so... will the troops and the razor wire fences. Let's just get to Pelosi's Damnatio Memoriae of Trump. And this is, I should have had this earlier really, but Pelosi accidentally mentioned Trump's name. And let's play the clip if we can.
That a couple years ago, I guess it must be longer than that now, when Trump was new president. Oh, did I say his name? When they did the Muslim ban.
I mean, she's 80 years old, so if she accidentally says the name of the person she's not meant to name, you got to forgive her.
But that means they actually have a rule, which
that
is
means
that
they
you're
have
not
a
meant
rule.
to name
That means she didn't mean to say his name.
Also referencing a travel ban there that they came up with.
Yes.
It was literally Joe Biden, Obama administration.
I mean, Joe Biden the other day was like, there was no COVID vaccine before I was president. You were vaccinated before you were president, Joe. Like, there's video of you being vaccinated before you were president. What the hell is wrong with you, senile old boomers? But anyway, the Lincoln Project, like what I love about this, right? What I love about all of this is that every enemy of Trump is collapsing. And what are they doing? They're in the bushes watching Trump play golf. There's been new footage of them. I should have got it up for this, in fact. It didn't seem very important, but now I've said all this.
Got to get pics of that thick bod, I guess.
Yeah, well, exactly. You know, and there was one that's like Trump had yelled, "Oh, I hate this course," because he'd kicked a ball into the water or something. It's like, oh no, oh god, he was frustrated playing golf. That's it. Trump BTFO'd. But yeah, the Lincoln Project's collapsing under the weight of the grooming allegations. They got a fundraiser shut down. More allegations have come out that the Lincoln Project, the notoriously rhino, I suppose is the most charitable way of putting it. But I mean,
otherwise Democrats in Republican clothing.
Yeah, essentially just appears to be a front for a grooming pedo network.
That's the allegation.
That's the allegation. But I mean, like, they've got to the point now where there are various members who are connected to it and just like, look, we should just shut this down. It's like, yeah, you probably should just shut this down.
Like, I saw a bunch of ex-staff were asking to be released from the non-disclosure agreements so that they could speak. And the Lincoln Project were shuffling their feet on this. I was like, this doesn't look great, guys. Like, why would you not just release everything if you've done nothing wrong? But
Trump investigated non-stop for years, found nothing, goodest boy. Every single person surrounding him in his contingent of enemies, weird at the very best.